Three rounds left, and the fine margins are getting finer and finer. The Classics king, Topi Kotkaniemi, has 13 points to catch up to Brandon Hawkin and his fantastic season so far. Second will do for Brandon, but when the track is as lightning fast as this, you won't want to miss it. It's a legacy version of the home of British racing. It's Silverstone 2008 in the Lotus 49's Grand Prix Legend Series, live today on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi everyone, I'm Jake Sperry, and with me in the booth is Christian Challoner. Behind the scenes is our director Robert O'Brien, and he is using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Silverstone is the old airfield that has made heroes and villains aplenty. Let's garner an understanding with our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Silverstone. Most famously known for being the first circuit to host a round of Formula One, this place has since become synonymous with British motorsports. Hosting everything from sports cars to touring cars to open wheels and even motorcycles, it's a track that fits a wide variety of vehicles. With 5 different layouts to choose from, you've got a little something for any level of racing. The longest of those layouts boasts 17 turns over more than 3 miles or 5 kilometers, so it can take a bit to get around it, even in higher-powered machinery. Its main characteristics are the long straights, swift corners, and general lack of elevation change. Its most famous set of turns is definitely the Maggots-Beckett sequence, in which anything with high downforce finds itself challenged with the rapid changes of direction. While there is a fair bit of paved runoff and quick corners like Copse and Stowe, the time lost from going off can be costly. There's a few turns with opportunities for overtaking, including Vale, Abbey, and Priory, but in cars with less horsepower, expect the slipstream to be where many attempt to get by. The Hangar Straight is perhaps the most notorious for draft battles to erupt. All in all, this versatile racetrack located just northwest of London provides both history in its roots and action on the tarmac. The huge number of British fans that typically attend events are seldom left wanting.
A classic feel today for a classic series which has produced some classic action. But this Silverstone circuit effectively running the old layout now, and what will be an incredibly quick run when you consider here today, Christian, that there's going to be no Abbey chicane. It's going to be even faster on the run up to bridge.
Yeah, so it's the older version of the track and the kind of the most historic version of the track with as many chicanes removed as possible. Obviously very, very fast. Still not quite as fast as the original circuits were, which didn't have that end complex to it, but 16 turns today. It is going to be quite tricky, especially off the start, because they've got that really short run down to turn 1, and then everybody has to go through the funnel into Maggots and Beckett's and everything. So I do think the start's going to be fairly chaotic. We're going to have some drivers actually on the bend as well, getting away from the line. I think that's going to probably make or break the race today.
It certainly will make or break the race, and I tell you what, for 3.142 miles, for just a smidgen over 5 kilometers, this is going to be an amazing track to keep in mind. But let us talk championship just for a moment. Let's start with the F1 championship, as it is named. There is an F1 and an F2 championship overall, and it's Brandon Hawkin, 400 points. They get 2 drop rounds in this series, and he is clear at this point in time. Kotkaniemi second, just 13 points the margin. Those two will be scrapping it out for the championship. Pretty much on an island right now in third is Sebastian Tixier at this moment in time, and then it's pretty much a who's who and a free-for-all for 4th place on down. Benjamin Shoko in there in 4th. Laust Olsen in at 5th position. You've got the 2 streamers in 6th and 7th. You've got Xavier Sanchez, Hiking 360 ES, and then Robert Plumley, who is the world of Kinduchi. They are 6th and 7th. Hervé Trengerade finds himself in 8th as the Norwegian, with Togo Hasada 9th, who has managed to have a very, very strong run over the course of this season. And John Olsen becomes the second Olsen, with the second different spelling of Olsen, rounding out the top 10. Christian, you've kept your eye on the F2 standings.
Yeah, so no surprises in F2. David Rossi still leads, but his lead is down to only 9 points. He had a 0 score last week at Michigan, at 2 points at Monza the week before, but thankfully for him, Michael Grissinger also scored 0 at Monza, so that's why that gap is still 9, but definitely tight at the top there. Don Peak is closed up as well. He's 27 off the lead with a small lead over Robert Obretta in 4th. Marcus Seifert in 5th, 55 points back. He's probably not going to contend for the championship at this point. And then a big step back, 25 to Hideki Kovista, Tobias Harmby, Gary Ho. Back row Rob Reynolds, he's there in 9th, 97 off the lead. And then Andrew Eng is 104 off the lead in 10th.
The Cup of Nations then is your nationalities fighting it out. No surprises, Finland up on top, 477 points, but it is a little bit close up there at the top end because you've got Canada just 6 points back, giving an absolute run for Finland's money. Spain find themselves in 3rd, and it's a great scrap between the United States and Singapore. They find themselves 4th and 5th, with the United Kingdom in 6th position. A little bit of a gap back to Australia in 7th as they race against Japan and Denmark 8th and 9th. And rounding out the top 10, 200 points adrift right now is Norway at this point. So a lot of work to deal with, but this is how everyone's going to be racing today here, Christian, and 20 laps does seem like a pretty solid run today.
Yeah, and I do think it will go by quite fast. We've seen laps around about 1 minute 40s, so it will be a relatively short race just because the speed will be fairly high. But round 10 of 12, so into that final quarter of the series, and we've already talked a little bit about that battle in the F1 Championship, how Topi Koitunimi essentially has to win the remaining 3 races, and Brandon Hawken, even if he finished 2nd, would only lose out by 2 points. So that's very, very tight there. There is no spare car, as always, in the 49 series with open setups. Drive-through penalty at 17X, which, you know, is viable to get around Silverstone, but I hope that we won't see anybody picking that up. And then a disqualification at 25.
So they've got to make sure that they've got their eyes focused on what is today's running. 38 drivers here today at Silverstone between the F1 and the F2 divisions that have been put in. Currently, it's Koitunimi up on top of the board with a 140.382 running through the fast left here in through the Vale and into Club Corner, trying to really maximize the circuit going through. You can see just poking the car up over the exit, trying to take as much as possible out before flicking the car left through Abbey, flat out through here, almost using all of the road, 250 kilometers an hour in a car that is pretty much like driving a shoebox at times, running through now into Priory Corner, slightly off camber left-hander, and a little bit of correction, and you expect a lot of that when you've got next to no aerodynamic grip. It's all mechanical in this car.
Yeah, and you need a lot of response through these tight corners, otherwise you'll see there, he picks up a little bit of understeer. I don't think he's going to hurt his lap. Be interesting to see if he runs faster the second time around. We have seen that quite a lot in the 49 series, that the first laps tend to be fairly cautious. Hawkins definitely going to need a better second lap. He's 6 tenths off the pole. Koitunimi does improve by just under a tenth.
It's worth talking about track conditions for why drivers are going so fast. It's just 19 degrees out there on track in British. It's 66 degrees Fahrenheit American as they start making runs for the line. That was Hervé Trengarade making his run through. And then Jim Shedlick, nice to see Jim out there making a start this season. The reigning champion then goes second fastest. Hawking does improve, but only to third fastest on a 140.5, so a little bit off the pace. Now here is Kane Lasky looking for a time, currently 7th fastest, and it's incredible to think here at this point, Christian, that the top 7 are split by almost 1.4 seconds. There is a top 6 and everyone else at this point.
Yeah, and that's kind of something that we've seen throughout the course of the season, that especially Topi Koitunimi, Jim Shedlick, Brandon Hawken have all really kind of pushed the pace quite an extreme amount, really, if I'm honest, in the 49 series. And even drivers such as Ove is 7 tenths off the pole, which, you know, you think Ove, past champion, many time race winner. Sebastian Tixier as well. He's not actually picked up a broadcast race win, but he's been very close many times. 7 tenths almost off the pole, and it just goes to show you that the level in the 49 is very, very high right now.
It absolutely is, and the focus is going to be so very important just to keep in mind as they go out there. Lasky then running through, has used all of his laps up, so his time will not improve from this point onwards out there on track. It's just about everyone now coming around trying to find those laps. Sebastian Tixier is out there on a lap, so too is Ulrich Fraunberg in the number 38, lowest iRacing in the field. But here's Tixier in the 5. I believe this isn't a representative flying lap out there. He's just trying to get an understanding for this circuit. And there are a number of drivers here who have decided that they will not be setting a qualifying time out there on circuit today. And I find that quite telling here, Christian, because with such a big field, you're almost guaranteed to have someone run into troubles.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have a couple of drivers who like to start out at the back of the field, really like to not take a qualifying time. But I do think quite a few of these that we have with no time today are actually just picking up off tracks, and that's why they haven't set a time. And there's going to be a huge disadvantage, you know.
Yeah. It certainly will. Let's take a look then at the starting grid for today's action here from Silverstone. Topi Courtiniemi will start from pole position, a 140.285. We'll have Jim Shedlick for company on the front row. Brandon Hawkin will line up third with Sebastian Tixier in fourth. They Trengarade and Benjamin Shoko will round out row 3 of the grid. Kane Lasky will start from 7th with Jorge Nieva in 8th position. Laust Olsen will start 9th. Along with Heike 360 ES, Xavier Sanchez rounds out the top 10, Christian.
Yep, starting in 11th is the other Olsen, John Olsen. He's there alongside David Rossi. A really nice qualifying performance by him, first driving the 142s with Gary Ho there in 13th. Robert Plumley back in 14th today with Javier Mosquera and Marco Antonio Lopez Salgado rounding out row 8. Ferdinand Grau, Terry Otillis, Kyle Ridley a little bit further back than we're used to seeing him in 19th. And Michael Grissinger, he's going to have a lot of positions to make up if he wants to gain some ground on David Rossi in that F2 championship.
Miro Hrashki will start from 21st with Cam Porter alongside Marcus Seufzer, and Emmanuel Pereira are on row 12. Row 13 has Brad Cathcart and Donald Peake with Roberto Pangrazzi in 27th and Andrew Eng at 28th. Robert O'Brother will start 29th and Zachary Nürnberger rounds out 30. And just to quickly go through the final positions of the grid, you've got Zach Purcell, who was the last driver to set a time. And all of these drivers now are separated by iRacing. Ray Oliver ahead of Joan Rodriguez, Eddie Contreras, Mats Linden, Christian Arribas, Robert Reynolds, and Aldrich Fraunberg. Car 38, position 38. Work to do today. Lots of positions then, and they have to grid around the Woodcote corner in order to get this start. And the starts here, really, Christian, are the most critical.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see there that pretty much everybody 9th on back is actually on the curve.
They are on the curve. They are looking for their chances, and they are going to have to be careful about how much they spin up. Green flag in the air. Let's get ourselves underway. Courtiniemi does not go off of the start. Jim Shedlick's going to jump him, and a really big bog down from Brandon Hawkin, who gets swallowed up by the pack on the run into Copse Corner. So he will drop a huge amount of time as they run through the opening forays of these 20 laps. And a good clean start. Love to see it then from everyone as they go through, and into Maggots then. For the first time, they'll flick through. Beckett's then the right, and then through this left-hander in towards Chapel. A bit of side-by-side as the likes of John Olsen keeps an eye on. Xavier Sanchez trying to find a pass on Laust Olsen. A nice clean start. Top 2 getting away, and they're fighting for the race lead. Shedlick and Courtiniemi.
Yeah, I was so focused on Topi having a kind of a little bit of a poor getaway that I didn't notice Hawkins' absolutely horrific getaway. The opportunity to take the lead slipped away from him. You see Topi trying to go now around the outside of Jim.
Oh, he might just get it here, and I think he will. That's a great bit of up and under driving from Courtiniemi. He knew just what he needed to do. He made that pass look fantastic. Tixier in third, Trengarade in fourth. Hawkin has recovered so far. He's now back in 6th position. He's got a bit of work to do, but number 1 championship leader from Canada knows that he's got to really put on a great showcase to get himself back. He's got a 13-point lead in the championship right now, and he knows that finishing 6th blows all his margin.
Yeah, we have had an off in Bridge Corner. It's Robert Plumley. He's gone around. I think it was a solo car incident.
Well, that's not good for Robert Plumley, and the world of Kinducci will not be very happy. Number 15 in a world of trouble, and it's so easy to do at that section of road. But let's keep an eye then on the front. You can see that Cosworth DFV engine in the back for Topi Courtiniemi as he now tries to run through Copse Corner here, starting lap 2 overall. And these drivers are really pushing the limits of grip, and they'll be slipping and sliding around, trying to drift the car almost at points through a number of these corners, and they're going to have to be pretty much on it at this point. Drivers with mechanical black flags, Kane Lasky and Ray Oliver, both effectively having their races over and done with.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate to have on lap 1. We did talk about how the start was going to be a little bit tricky, but it's never nice to see cars go out on lap 1, and Topi is just about breaking away from Jim here as you see Hawking going around the outside of Ben Zocco.
Got a little bit of a slide on entry then from Hawking, means he can't get it secured, but he's got the inside into the Vale, and he'll take the position away as they go around the old club corner and onto what will be christened in about 13 years' time from this virtual scan here, Christian, the Sir Lewis Hamilton Straight.
Yeah, absolutely, and you know, it's kind of strange actually seeing this old track layout. It's been such a long time since we've seen it without that pit straight.
Yeah, it has been a while, and it is still a really, really cool circuit to see the battling on. So they'll keep their eyes on it. The top 6 away from Laust Olsen in 7th, who leads a secondary train back of a similar length. It's a group of 6 and a group of 6 out there at the front at this point in time, and it's only going to increase as this race goes on. Do want to keep an eye on your F2 leader, David Rossi, though, because Rossi is all over Javier Mosquera at this point in time, and that's going to look like it's going to be a great race coming forward. Courteniemi sets the fastest lap then of the race, and Javier Mosquera is looking well behind in the mirrors. There's a big slide behind for Gary Ho, who leads the 3rd train in 13th.
Yeah, David Rossi with a little bit of a gap there, and his nearest rival in points hasn't made any progress, still back there in 20th for Michael Grissinger. Actually dropped 1 spot down to 21st now.
So position's certainly working. It definitely looks like for David Rossi, this is a track that he does love, and he is driving fantastically at this point in time. Mosquera in the Duracell battery right now, trying to charge up a way forward. They've lost contact to Jorge Nieva, who is there in 10th position. So there's a lot of work to do now in this race to chase down Hawking, by the way, who's just moved up into 4th position. He's got the pass done on Hervé Trengarade, and he managed that one on the exit of Copse in towards Maggotts and Beckett's, because it looked like for just a moment there, Christian, that there was a slowdown penalty.
Yeah, and whilst that was happening, I just saw Ferry and Grau had a huge moment into Stowe, lost the back end of the car. Don't think he had any contact with anybody or anything and has been able to rejoin, but will not be in that 16th spot anymore.
No, he certainly won't, and it will be a long road to recovery then on lap 3, soon to start lap 4 of this race. There is Hervé Trengarade in the number 13, looking to give chase to the driver, the championship leader, who has made a pass through, Brandon Hawking. And it's work that needs to be done now to chase this down. The way that Brandon Hawking, though, has got his championship lead has been really interesting to keep in mind here, Christian, because he's not had the most wins this season. It's a 4-3 split. Courteniemi with 4, Brandon Hawking with 3. But the key has been podiums. Brandon Hawking, so far over the first 9 races of this season, has had 8 podiums.
Yeah, Courteniemi showed a lot of speed at the very beginning of the season, but just really through no fault of his own, never really got to the end of the race in the position that he should have been. So that's why he lost out so many points early on, whilst Hawking was picking up the wins in those races. And since then, it's been very, very close on pace. I would say that Topi's had a slight advantage, and that's why he's been able to take away the race wins. But what's going to be interesting here is if Hawking can run down both Tixier and Shedlick, because if he finishes in 3rd or 4th, that's going to give Topi a little bit more breathing room for those last 2 rounds, and it's going to narrow that points gap even further.
It certainly will narrow that points gap, and the key here is damage limitation today. Sebastian Tixier then driving out of Singapore, an Australian driver from Singapore. Little look to the inside at Priory, but Priory is this really cool corner where you can take the narrow line, Christian, but you can also take the wide line as well, and both are just as viable.
Yeah, it's about 1,500 different lines through these last couple of corners here, because they're so sort of dependent on each other, and really kind of what you want to do either for mid-corner speed or exit speed. And Tixier having a really, really strong performance. We've talked about how he hasn't picked up a broadcast race win, but has shown strong pace. I think this is some of the best pace that we've seen from him in a while, actually.
Oh, it's going to get close. He has to get on the binders as Shedlick ran wide. And here comes Brandon Hawkin. Thank you very much. He's going to take one for his troubles into Maggot's corner. That is how quickly it can go wrong. They were pushing each other so hard there, Christian, that they both ran wide.
Yeah, I feel like I might have cursed Seb a little bit there. Lost the spot. Lost the opportunity to get by Jim as well when it looked almost nailed on there.
It very much looked like it was a nailed-on moment, but that's how quickly it can go wrong. GSRC replay, ladies and gentlemen. This is how quickly you need to get things sorted. And that was the pass then that just found itself completed then. Brandon Hawkin moving forward. So that then, just how easy the troubles is. In through Cop's corner. This is where it all went wrong. You can see here, pushing a little bit wide. Shedlick gets it out in the AstroTurf. And how you get it stopped out there, I have no idea. Full on 45 degrees of angle and able to get it gathered back up to straight.
Yeah, it was a great save, but you got to feel for Seb there because if he'd actually had a tiny bit more margin to Jim, he would have had a wicked run off the corner and the pass would have been so easy for him. Instead, he's the one who loses the spot.
He is, and that's how quickly you can go from hero to zero around here. And now Brandon Hawkin has his eyes on second position. The bad news is that the gap has ballooned out now over 3 seconds to Topi Kotkaniemi, the Finnish sensation out there leading this race. Number 2, flying forward in the Raccoon Racing Lotus 49. As you can see there, just from the Ford-Cosworth engine camera, they can't see him through Cop's corner. You'll see maybe on the very, very exit. There they are, right in the distance there. 2 blots in the distance that you can see, and then 2 more behind. So that's the gap that Kotkaniemi has at this moment.
Yeah, and it's pretty commanding. You know, he's not in draft range at all, so there's none of that help to pull anyone back to him. Obviously, it ballooned out a little bit because of that last lap, but this is fairly standard that we've seen from Topi, that he's just able to execute a blistering qualifying lap and then pull away in the early stages of the race. And kind of just have a fairly relaxed end to the race, managing that margin.
I tell you what, I am loving how much the car sits down under braking right now. You can see there's so much air underneath it, but the moment they grab the brakes, it's like pointing the car down into the track and then trying to move off from the exit. There is a lot of weight distribution that goes into it. Little wiggle off the exit for Jim Shedlick might open Brandon Hawkin up here.
Yeah, and you think these kind of cars are very, very light compared with modern cars. Is Hawkin really looking to the inside of bridge? Not able to pull it off. Actually, has made a mistake. He's going to be vulnerable to Seb now.
He is going to be vulnerable to Tixier, and that's how quickly attack to defense has to go. You're stuck in what is Schrodinger's overtake. You have to attack and defend at the same time, and ultimately, it's held for the moment from Brandon Hawkin, who takes the very narrow line at Luffield Corner and looking to try and get as much power out now over through the exit. So that battle continues on. There is another battle going on for 7th and 8th position that I do want to keep a little eye on as Kotkaniemi sets another purple lap time, fast lap of the race, because you've got Laust Olsen and Xavier Sanchez. This is a great scrap inside the top 10.
Yeah, and on that fast lap, Topi's fast lap in the race is actually quicker than his qualifying time.
Well, it just shows you that Topi Kotkaniemi is going from strength to strength when his times are going faster and faster. The group 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th start really flying about now out on circuit, and they are trying every which way to get the moves done, get the places that are so very much needed right now. And you can just tell with the way that they're driving, the way that they're going out for it right now. They've got to try and be as aggressive as possible and get through. Lap traffic, though, for the first time. That'll be Robert Reynolds, who's now 3 laps down, that they have to try and find a way around. They do so quite nicely. And one of the things with this series is because this is one split 38 drivers, you do get a lot of lap traffic.
Yeah, you absolutely do, especially when the lap is relatively short. But, you know, it is a pretty tight community, so everybody's really aware of each other, and everybody's kind of raced with each other for a very, very long time. And that makes for generally very, very good lap car etiquette.
Oh, and there's mistakes 2nd and 3rd as they go through. Javier Sanchez still chasing down Laust Olsen 7th and 8th, and is trying everything to get close enough to the front. Not going to get there, but I took a look at Brooklands corner. Shedlick went deep, Hawkin went deep, and Tixier almost had Christmas again.
Yeah, Hawkin was again looking on the inside. You see everyone through that final kink is actually running out onto the grass, and that's going to bite someone if they keep doing that.
It will, and they have to be careful about how much they push, because this car can go pretty much on any dime that you've got, and it's just about finding an angle. Lots of understeer for Tixier. Opens the gap up to number 1, Brandon Hawkin, as they went through Maggot's corner. But now as they exit the chapel, they enter the hangar straight. This is where you absolutely need to charge. I'll tell you what, closest driver here is Hervé Trengarade, who definitely needs to run up through the pack here on lap 8. Little search to the inside, but Tixier can break a lot later here because he gave himself that room on the straight to close.
Yeah, Seb very, very late on the brakes there. Everyone in this group is pretty much a uniform distance apart, but what's interesting is I'm kind of watching it from the chopper cam, and everyone's line is different. There's basically no consistency in lines between any of these 4 cars.
No, they're all finding their own different places, their own ways to get around this car. And it is a car that allows for a lot of versatility. And it's the sort of car which you had to drive a certain way. You can drive away to get faster. You can drive away to get faster. And this is why this sort of car here, Christian, was built for someone like Jim Clark.
Yeah, it's really a great car. Just to try and actually learn, and I know it seems a bit daunting to drive something that's seemingly as on edge as the 49, but you know, it does teach you a lot about how to be very, very smooth with inputs, and it's one of my favorite cars on iRacing. I think it's wicked. I'm so glad that we've seen such big fields in the 49 in recent seasons. It's great to see that we've actually got to the point where we're actually getting split races with it as well now.
Yeah, I'm loving that as well, and I think everybody knows that this is going to be a fantastic series to cut your teeth in, and it's also a great car as well to broaden your understanding of how to drive in iRacing, because you're certainly fighting with the grip all the time, and you could take these skills and transfer them into a lot of other cars out there, and you'll suddenly find that you've got a better understanding of how to catch the slide and how to catch the drift.
Yeah, absolutely. That's pretty much because the 49 is almost in a constant state of sliding. But it does help in the modern cars, you know, which are typically the opposite of that. They're completely stuck down unless you're having a big moment. But it does help you kind of get used to that. And it's obviously very punishing to mistakes as well. So like I said, it really kind of promotes a smooth driving style. And, you know, it's just fun. It's just fun to drive something that's kind of this old school in style.
And once again, a slowdown penalty there. I wouldn't say it was a slowdown penalty, but it was close for Hervé Trengarade through turn 1, completely getting a big slide actually as he went through, and he was lucky he still had a car. Now all of a sudden they're starting to scrap, and Tixier trying to pick a lock in through on Brandon Hawkin, who gets a huge slide through the corner, has to spread his way through. And just hold on. This is really costing right now. Hawkin is really sensing that Tixier is there, and it might give Jim Shedlick the chance to run away.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say that Seb actually is the strongest looking driver of this group right now. Ove was kind of in contention, but slipped back just a little bit. But I'm really surprised that Hawkin, I'm not going to say that he looks slow, but he's kind of been clearly, you know, up with Topi's pace, and this week it just doesn't really look like he's got that right now.
No, and I think pace is very key here, because that gap is now up over 6 seconds and is flying away. And I think Brandon Hawkin has found himself pretty much in the trap with not many ways to go about and deal with the way he needs to construct this race. Going through, Tixier closes back up once again and looks to try and attack with everything he's got. But once more, they're going to stay single file for the time being as they run through. Great scrapping right now for David Rossi. He's got Gary Ho and Carl Ridley right behind on the hangar straight. And this is a big scrap right now in terms of racing in the mid-pack, because everyone is trying to hold on for every position that they can possibly get their hands on at the moment. As you can see, Tixier once again using all of the road through Abbey, and there's been contact as Ridley and Gary Ho have come together coming into the Vale.
Yeah, and then just behind that, Michael Grissinger is actually going around.
Oh, so multiple car pileup then, up on 2 wheels. That is not part of the plan there for number 16, and that's how quickly it can go wrong here. So Kyle Ridley looking at it, it was Gary Ho on the right-hand side, and Ridley just gets up over the tyre and just runs into the side, and that's how quickly it can go wrong. Those massive rear-wheel tyres are needed for grip, and it's so easy just to clip one. And there's Grissinger there going off as well.
Yeah, it just looked like a little bit of a miscommunication there, or, well, not really miscommunication, but just a misunderstanding of what everybody's line was going to be in that corner, and unfortunately, the two of them got together. It has kind of given Rossi a little bit of breathing room.
It has, and it will give a little bit more. And just looking at this is, I believe, Hervé Trengarade that we're keeping an eye out on at this point in time to try and see how he's been doing, and he looks okay, but it doesn't look like we're going to be getting too much out from that. So let's go back then to live pictures here on the Global Sim Racing channel. The battle's still enraging on between second, third, and fourth, and Trengarade, he's not a million miles out then as they go through the club corner, but he knows that he's just at that range of 1.3 seconds where he can't quite latch on to the group in front, and he's going to be in a little bit of trouble trying to get anything more than fifth place out of this one. It's going to rely on Brandon Hawking being aggressive. Third he'll take, it'll be all right, but he'd prefer second. Second will give him a lot more hope from a Jim Shedlick here today, who, of course, reigning champion. Haven't seen too much of him this season, Christian, but he is certainly proving that, you know, form is temporary, but class is permanent.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw a pretty insane pace from Jim last season, and kind of was very similar to what Topi's done this season in just race wins, actually. But really, for Hawking, he does need the second spot because he can... It gives him one more race where he can finish second to Topi, and without that, it makes it a bit more of a pressure that he has to actually win a race, which sounds crazy considering that he's already won a good number of races this season, but it's just been so difficult to beat Topi on these regular GP-style tracks recently.
It has, and I think Topi Kotkaniemi has been pretty much hitting a different level and a different stride. He's been doing the same as well when it comes to the Lotus 79 Championship. And I don't know many drivers here, Christian, who can say that they can take the 49 and the 79 Championship in the same iRacing season.
Yeah, there's definitely not many of them, and you know, they are very unique and very different cars as well. So it's not like he's, you know, hopping from, say, one stock car to another where the driving styles and everything pretty much transfer across. It's two very different cars.
Two different cars, two different understandings. How close do you want to be as they run up through Priory once again? It's about on the exit for Brandon Hawking. He gets a good run, but the straight is about 15 meters too short for a look to the inside. Shedlick uses all of the road. Hawking gets a major run. Can't find a way through at the inside. The door slammed shut by Jim Shedlick, saying, no, you're not going to go to the inside. And it does tell you, as we enter towards the final third of this race, that Brandon Hawking here is starting to get a little bit desperate to find these passes, and Jim Shedlick is doing everything in his power to hold it off.
Yeah, and you know, we haven't really seen any kind of aggressive defense or anything like that. It's just all car placement on the apex of corners, and that's really what stopped any runs so far.
Yeah, all the runs just being tempered right now, and every time a driver gets into the right position, there is always that counter position to cover it off. On the straight then, just about a car length between them as they run down the hangar, travelling at 287 kilometres an hour before the brakes, and they really have to brake early in these machines because the brakes just simply aren't that good as they get down on them and try and give themselves some angle.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you think you're actually going very quick in a car with kind of very old school tires and no downforce to help you in the braking zones either. So it does just make life difficult. You have to really back up the braking zones. Sometimes at some tracks actually outside the marker boards, which, you know, is quite a crazy thing to think.
They got traffic in front, and it's not in a kind place as they enter this final complex out on circuit. Shedlick runs wide through Priory, opens up the door. Hawking trying to search to the inside. The room is given as they go through, and now they're going to have to fight here. Traffic hard left at the latest available opportunity. Hawkin trying to go around the outside of Luffield. He might get the power on a little bit earlier. Shedlick's done so well to defend that. That could have been an accident waiting to happen, but some wonderful driving, and it has brought Trengere back in the amount of fighting they do. 2 tires in the grass then from Hawkin.
Yeah, it didn't give him the run there into turn 1 that I thought it might have done. And that seems to be the difficulty, that even if you do get a nice run through Luffield, it's so hard to actually pull off a pass.
It is so difficult, and we've seen it. Tixier runs a little bit wide, then in 4th position. He's got eyes on the podium. He'd love a podium right now, and he looks in front of him at these 2 drivers, a former champion, or the reigning champion, and the championship leader, having an absolutely fantastic battle here in this race on lap 14 of 20. Hawkin with a little look to the inside. He's going to every single trope in the book. The 101 Sim Racers Guide, the first thing they write in there is get in the mirrors.
Yeah, and you know, it is the thing that you can kind of... it's better to sort of force a mistake than it is to actually try and complete the pass.
And if they can find that pass, they can find that one overtake that makes it all worth it, then it's going to be great. But once again, coming out of Club Corner, there is a little bit of a gap here for Jim Shedlick, and it gives just a little bit more room to just breathe through this section of track. And again, it's just going to have to be patience here as they run through, as Brooklands has been one of the keys on this circuit. As, again, Tixier gets a little bit closer. I want to keep an eye a little bit further back. There's some good scrapping in the middle of the pack behind Marcos Antonio Lopez in the number 20 for 13th on back. You got Ridley, who's making a recovery. You got Miro Hrashki in there at this point in time. Ferenc Grau in that train, and the lap down Robert Plumley. So that's also something to keep an eye out on between now and the end of this race.
Yeah, it is very, very tight, that battle for 13th, and obviously a lot of recovering cars in that group.
And those recovering cars are all trying to find themselves a way through and do as much as they can. Look like there may have been a little bit of trouble for Courtney with the lap traffic. There is Robert Plumley right now, who is doing a very okay job right now here in 16th position. He's actually recovering fantastically, so he's not a lap down. I thought he was. He had that instant early on, but he is recovering in its traditional blue and yellow. Uh-oh.
Hawkin's gone deep. He's lost the position to Tixier.
That's how quickly it can change. And Brandon Hawkin then over at Stowe Corner, just missing his braking point by about 3 meters, and he tries to get the car turned in. It didn't want to respond, and suddenly Tixier, cookies, that's mine. GSRC replay.
Yeah, it's actually a super easy pass for Seb there. You see Hawkin was just really, really kind of aggressive on the nose completely into the corner. Full 2 car widths wide from Apex there.
And 2 car widths is all you need at that point in time. That's how easily it can go through. And Tixier finding himself the pass then that moves himself up onto the podium, and it gives Courtniemi a little bit more help in this championship to pull the gaps back that he needs to car number 1, Brandon Hawkin. At this point in time, they cross the line. They'll have 5 laps to go here at Silverstone Legacy, and they will try everything in their powers to go through. I do want to keep as well an eye on the battle 6th and 7th, because Benjamin Shoko has been reeled in the last couple of laps here by Laust Olsen.
Yeah, Laust having a really, really strong run. Looking at a 6th spot here potentially on Ben, but he's got Xavier Sanchez just behind him as well, also up 2 spots from starting 10th.
Yeah, and Xavier Sanchez, one of the biggest Twitch streamers in the Spanish-speaking community, is someone who absolutely loves driving the classics and is a big representation point for classics racing here on iRacing, and someone who is an absolutely integral part of the community.
Yeah, and it's a driver that we always kind of look at, especially when we go to the oval rounds, because we know he's always strong on them. We've seen him pick up a victory at Pocono in the past. But, you know, on the road courses as well, he's not exactly slow. He's always contending for a top 10 and often for a top 5.
Yep, and today he is well within the top 10 by a good 10 seconds. 10th currently held by Jorge Nieva at this point in time. More traffic for 2nd, 3rd and 4th as they have to tiptoe around Zachary Nürnberger out on circuit, and they can see just as we moved over to that group, how much the traffic has to be danced around. So they really are having to work and scrap and claw, and Hawkin now is going to have to put all of his effort, maybe just to even get a podium today.
Yeah, and he's running out of laps here. He's just got 4 to go. Fortunately for him, Ove has dropped off the back a little bit, so he's not under threat himself. He can afford to take a little bit of risk in trying to repass Seb. Seb has another huge moment.
And just like that, he gets the gift that he's been looking for. Tixier not wanting to give it up then through Maggot's corner, but he gets the understeer, and he can't do anything about it. What a move. Brandon Hawkin now up again into third. And again, it's just dicing with the levels of grip that you have through Cops and that AstroTurf on the outside.
Yeah, the Astro out there looks very, very slippery. That's not the first time we've seen someone have a huge moment. It's not the first time we've seen Seb have a huge moment out of turn 1. So that seems to be fairly critical if you can kind of force someone into making just enough of a mistake that they run out onto the Astro. It will check them up enough that you'll be able to get a run and make a pass.
Yeah, and that run is so crucial. If you can find a way to just get the run of all runs, you will have the world at your feet, because it is all about getting as much power off the exits with these machines. On the brakes into bridge, the right-hander flipping down to 160 kilometers an hour, then braking down even further, 125. Going through Priory, once more on the brakes to Brooklands, one of the slowest corners, 80 kilometers an hour for putting the power back on. Small brake down to just 95, running through the right then of Luffield and trying to get some drive. Shedlick, that one mistake from Sebastian Tixier may have just given Shedlick license to get to second position overall with 3 laps to go. The chase is a second. It's got to be 3/10 a lap now from Brandon Hawkin.
Yeah, and they really, really need to be mistake-free and perfect laps to close this gap down to even have a chance of making a pass.
Nürnberger on the front stretch, trying to rejoin after a spin, right in front of Shoko, Olsen, and Sanchez. That could have been so dangerous. Oh my goodness. Global Sim Racing Channel replay, and this is a weird place to have a spin. We don't often talk about Luffield being the place where it goes wrong. You can see the back just steps out, and that is a moment there. 32 just nosing it in. Now what's this on the rejoin? Shoko has to be so scared. He moves to the right, late as you like from Last Olsen. That could have been a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah, absolutely, and I understand the kind of the reaction from Zach there to sort of get the car pointed back straight as early as possible, but you just have to be very, very careful and watch and see what's coming behind you, because as soon as the car's moving, all bets are off. If you're coming up on that, you really don't know where they're going to be.
Oh, and Shedlick's back in 4th position all of a sudden, so Jim Shedlick now has dropped 2 places here. And it's a mistake as he's gone through. So had the lead. It looks like he had a slowdown penalty coming out then of maybe Beckett's, and through Chappell had to serve that and lost 2 spots for it.
So it was looking really actually kind of bad for Hawkin, I think it's fair to say. And now it's flipped around. It's not going to be a race win for him, but it's about as good a recovery drive as it could have been at this point.
Yeah, he's had to earn it. He's absolutely had to earn it after what was a slow start to today's race. But I'm not counting my chickens just yet. He's still got 2 laps to go, and Brandon Hawkin has just got to keep the car pointed in the right direction. Also on that last lap, Hervé Trengrade had an off through Abbey trying to get past the lap trafficker, Zach Purcell, and that was very scary for him. So everyone inside the top 10 is having worries. The only driver who I don't think's been worried at all in this race, it's car number 2 out in front, 10.5 seconds the lead. It's been a dominant display today.
Yeah, it kind of just... The gap has been growing the entire race. Normally we sort of see it flatline out a bit, but today it's just not done that. It's continually grown, and that has come from mistakes in the group behind him and whatnot. But the pace has just been really, really kind of on another level for Topi, and you think the grouping behind him is all kind of drivers that have won races in the past, have won championships in the past, and if it wasn't for Topi, that would definitely be a fight for a race win normally, but just he's completely just on a different level to everybody else.
Tixier had the mother of all runs, but it was covered by Brandon Hawkin. And I think the way that Tixier has got his Lotus 49 set up here as we come towards the last lap of this race, Christian, as he has got an absolute bullet under brakes.
Yeah, and that's actually something that we often see from Seb, that he's very, very strong on the brakes, but he has lost out there, and he's going to have to run Hawkin back down. But he's got to make sure that he's actually not under threat from...
Hervé Trengrade is out, and he is out and out. And it's a very weird accident for him as he went through. So he goes through the left, and the car just snaps, just absolutely snaps on him as he turns in, tries to stay out of the way. I don't know if he got damage or anything of that like, but the moment he's got damage, he just pulls the car off to one side and says, that's that.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what happened there, because it looked like he was on the brakes on the Astro, and that's why it went around on him. But yeah, just retired the car immediately afterwards.
Might have been instant point limit. I'm not too sure. We'll have to get a bit more clarification on that. It does promote everyone behind him up a position, and that is huge. But half a lap to go for Brandon Hawkin in second position. Tixier is right there. This is the place where Tixier's got to attack, and he's got to find some pace off of the exit. There is still that gap of about 3 and a bit car lengths that he's got to try and navigate through. And as they go through the left of Abbey and they come under the bridge, I think for now, Brandon Hawkin is safe with 2 quarters to go. Topi Courtiniemi knew that he had to be alert today, knew that he had to be perfect from here on out. He is just driving himself back into championship contention. That is as good as you can get. It will be his 5th race win of the season. Topi Courtiniemi will come to the line and win at Silverstone. But there's troubles for Sebastian Tixier late on here in this one, as he has dropped way back here in terms of the scrap. He ran a little bit deep. I believe Jim Shedlick here had a little look at that and said, thank you very much. He's going to take 3rd away. And Tixier's thrown it in the wall at the final corner, and he will cross the line upside down.
Has he actually crossed the line?
Yeah, he did. He crossed the line and then had an accident coming over it. So that'll be that. This is how easily it goes wrong. He's just pushing too hard. He's just gone in deep there. You can see the car just doesn't have enough grip there, Christian, to fight in and find a way through.
Yeah, and that's got to be frustrating for him, because he was kind of safe for that 3rd spot and then lost it all of his own accord. And I think that's why we saw the big incident coming to the line.
You see here, just pushes it too much. And as he crosses the line, that is a heavy, heavy hit into the wall. And that will be that then for Sebastian Tixier. He'll have a headache in the morning, no doubt, with the way that car is landed. But brilliant racing throughout the field. And I tell you what, this has been a track where you've had to work for it. You've had to absolutely work for everything and a bit more from this. We're going to step aside from one moment here from the Legacy Silverstone, and we'll be back with post-race coverage after this. You're watching the Global Sim Racing channel. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Legacy Silverstone and your Lotus 49 series here. What a brilliant race that we've just had. Topi Courtiniemi, though, he is a classic specialist, and he is still on track to take both 49 and 79 crowns. But his victory today of 9.9 seconds was a stark warning for Brandon Hawkin in second position, who did all that he needed to do, damage limitation today. But the drivers who he was racing against gave him an absolute scrap for it. Jim Shedlick coming home in third position, the reigning champion. Sebastian Tixier finishing in fourth place after a mistake, three corners from the end at Brooklands. You got Benjamin Shoko. He had a great race in fifth position. It was quiet for the most part. And then Laust Olsen and Xavier Sanchez, Heike 360 ES, started to close down the gap and really bring this race to where it was needed. John Olsen managed to finish off in 8th position, despite the technical issues he had just before the start of this race, which would have put him in a state of panic as he went through. He drove a very, very quiet race with Jorge Nieva finishing 9th and Javier Mosquera rounding out the top 10.
David Rossi comes home in 11th and the highest of the F2 points drivers, so he'll extend his lead there. Marco Antonio Lopez Salgado, 7 seconds behind him. He comes away with that win of that 12th place battle over Miro Razgi. Kyle Ridley only able to recover to 14th, but still a good drive by him. And Farron Grau, another driver we saw with some incidents, comes home in 15th, with Robert Plumley back there in 16th, a little bit lower than we're used to seeing him, with Pereira in 17th. Grissinger was able to recover to 18th, but that is still going to be large points lost to Rossi there, with Tero Tullis and Marcus Seifert rounding out the top 20.
Rounding into page 3 then, it'll be 21st position for Cam Porter today. A minute 14 off the lead, with Robert Obrota in 22nd. Brad Cathcart will finish 23rd, with Joan Rodriguez in 24th. And Andrew Eng, the last finisher on the leading lap, in 25th position. Donald Peake, Mats Linden, Zach Purcell and Zachary Nürnberger all finished the race today, one lap down. And from 30th position on down here, Christian, you've got the retirees from this race, starting with Hervé Trengarade.
Yeah, and then next driver to not make the flag, Aldrich Freienberg, Christian Aris, Gary Ho, Kane Lasky started in 7th but went out of the race early. Then back row Bob, unfortunately didn't finish today, 4 laps down, and with Eddie Contreras, Ray Oliver and Robert Pangrazi rounding out the field.
Yeah, so back row Bob couldn't find what he needed, but a lot of drivers were able to find what they wanted. And importantly today, one of them was Topi Courtiniemi, who joins us right now. Topi, runaway victory. That's probably the calmest race that you've had, seeing everyone else behind you fight. But is the race you sort of needed here for your championship? Just easy victories, able to pull away and not worry about everyone behind you.
Yeah, something like that. I had a horrible start, and it was fun battling with Jim for a while. And I looked in the relative and I see I think there was a battle for second, and Brandon was P4 or P3 at some point, but I was trying to focus on my own race and getting around the lappers.
You were trying to focus on getting around the lap. You were absolutely flying. You built up your margin early, and especially around here today, the cold conditions certainly made things a slippery affair for a lot of drivers. Did you find that the confidence in the car was very much there from the moment you put your foot down?
Yeah, I had practice the cold tire laps actually, so because I knew that in the cold tires the car is very sketchy, and not as sketchy as the 79. It's just understeers a lot, but it's something you have to be aware of so you don't spin on lap 1, because that would be embarrassing.
You got 2 rounds to go. The gap closes up again. You effectively have eliminated the final drop round for Brandon Hawkin at this point. And your focus now will turn to Barcelona a week from today. Do you feel that as a track running that Barcelona historic circuit, that it's going to be another one of these classic tracks where you're trying to pick up as much as you possibly can, that it's not necessarily well run in iRacing, but there is that understanding, that history and legacy behind it that gives a better base of understanding than other circuits?
Oh yeah, I know it's a great circuit for the 49, especially with the new tires. I've only driven with the old tires, and even with those, it was super fun. So, and I can say I'm moderately fast there, I think.
Well, moderately fast normally for you, Toppy, is somewhere up near the front. So we'll hopefully see moderately fast once again. Floor is yours, though. Shout out sponsors. Who gets it done for you?
Oh, yeah. Mick for cheering me up in practice, and it's a bike from the Beats guys and the Ragoon boys and everybody watching. And you guys, of course.
No worries. Toppy Kotkaniemi then with his 5th victory of the season, and every reason to smile as that championship gap closes up evermore. Christian, you've managed to wander down the virtual paddock and you found the championship leader, Brandon Hawkin.
Brandon, it looked like probably one of the worst race starts possible for you, but you were able to recover by the flag to second spot, and you had that battle really for second for pretty much the entire back half of the race. Now, it's always difficult when you kind of lose positions at the beginning and you know you're in a tight points battle, but your way of getting back through the field was very, very calm. We didn't really see any major mistakes from you, and we didn't see you being particularly aggressive in doing so. How did you manage to do that? How, when you saw Topi was able to get out front and you were back there in 6th, how did you manage that recovery?
I was just hoping they stayed side by side up front there for a while I tried to make my way up front. I just tried to take every opportunity I could. I was really good at the start, getting the run off the corner, so I used that to my advantage there. And later I started falling off quite a bit, but it was enough at the start to be able to kind of just like pick off positions one by one. And everybody's really good about it. On the start there, I think a wheel was spinning when I went into second, or when I tried to go into second, and I just wouldn't go into seconds or third, sorry. And it was a little bit frustrating losing all the positions off the start, but I don't think I had anything for Topi anyway. So that was a great race there with Jim, Sebastian, who else we have? Ove, that was a really great battle there for second, and it was a lot of fun. But didn't have it this week, but. It was. I feel okay. with the slight recovery there, a little bit of recovery drive. Felt like that was kind of fun. So yeah, man. I just want to put one complete clean race together. Or other than last week, but that was a lot of fun nonetheless. And we'll see if we can improve next time and try and go get that checkered.
Well, that's the thing. The gap is now going to be down to 8 points, so you still kind of have one race in hand if you were to finish second to Topi again. But that would bring it down to pretty much whoever won the last race. And do you think that you're going to be able to turn this around a little bit? We've seen that you've got good race pace still, but it typically is the beginning of the race where Topi's able to execute really, really amazing qualifying laps. And that's what's able to kind of break him away from the field. And do you think you can kind of turn that around for Catalonia or Spa? And maybe if you pick up a race win, then it makes it so much harder for him to win this championship, right?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Of course, I'll do all I can. I think I know what I can improve on for next week. I think I made a slight error with how I set up the car. I couldn't quite get the run off the corners, but I think I know what I can do to fix that. And of course, clean up clean up the mistakes. Just small things like getting that slow down there at Okayama, not being able to shift up in this one, stuff like that. If I could just get a nice clean start, and of course I'd like to improve on qualifying as well. I've been getting closer. I'm definitely better in qualifying than I was earlier in the year. So we'll see what we can do here. It's got to be really challenging, really difficult. But I'm just gonna keep experimenting, see if I can clean up those errors at the beginning of races, and try and drive a cleaner race overall, and see if we can try and make it a little bit easier going into the final race. But it's gotta be really tough. But we'll see what we can do.
Well, it's definitely made for an exciting battle for us, and it's certainly going to go down to the wire, I think, no matter what happens next week. So that's going to be great to see. And before we let you go, is there anybody that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank you guys at GSRC, everybody who shows up on Saturdays, the races. It's been a great year, and no matter how it ends, it's been a really great season. So I'd just like to thank everybody, and shout out to SRC Movano Corsa, and we'll hopefully see you guys next week.
That's good. Well, thank you for coming to chat with us, and congratulations on the second place finish.
Thanks, guys.
Well, there you have it. Brandon Hawkin finishing second position. Jim Shedlick, though, the reigning champion, joins us here, finishing in third today. Jim, you qualify well, and then you see a start like that, and you must think Christmas came along very early for you.
I did, yeah. I couldn't believe it. My qualifying lap alone was my best lap by about half a second, so I didn't think I'd have quite the pace. And then next thing you know, a couple things were lining up for me, and I was in the lead out of turn one. But just glad to be able to finish the race.
Glad to be able to finish the race. Let's talk about Cops Corner, because it seems like it had you maybe twice today in this race. Just what makes that corner so difficult, especially on this legacy layout?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think this track, there's so many trade-offs in this track, and I was just really kind of struggling to get a handle of the track, just in general, all over the track for most of the race. But I appreciate Seb. I made a mistake early on. He was able to avoid me when I went wide out of Cops, and I felt like with about 7 to go, I kind of got a handle of the track. I felt like, and sort of settled into a rhythm. But then had an issue with shifting, and that cost me 2 spots at the end.
Well, a couple spots there, a little bit of trouble, but you managed to get one back with about 3 corners to go. You couldn't have asked for a better wish there come the end of the race. But how cool has it been seeing this championship in terms of the way it's developed? And of course, you as the reigning champion, you'll be handing your crown over to someone else. Just how cool have you seen this series go from strength to strength? You see the competition of field now up at the top.
Yeah, this championship has been fantastic, and I've been taking a bit of a break. This is my first race on iRacing since the championship race last season, so I've been enjoying watching it. I don't really know who to put my money on right now. I think Topi maybe has a little bit, just a tiny bit more overall pace, but Brandon's just been so consistent and so many second places. So I actually think if I had finished second today, I think it would have helped Topi out a lot to have a little bit of breathing room, but it looks like he might have to win the last 2 races, and I'll definitely be watching. It's going to be a great battle.
You'll certainly have to try, and if there's any much better advertisement for the Grand Prix series, then you've got to check it out. Jim, before we let you go, shout out sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank?
Just shout out to my family and friends. I appreciate letting me do this last season, and it's been great to be back for a one-off race. I wanted to be able to be the defending champion at least once, so shout out to any family and friends who are watching.
And defending champion you were, Jim, and a very strong one at that. Jim Shedlick there joining us, 3rd position overall here today in kart number 3. Christian, you've had a little walk as well. You found Ben Shoko.
Ben, it looked like a relatively quiet race for yourself, but you had to fend off a charge from both Lars Olsen and Xavier Sanchez at the end, and picked up an unlikely 5th place, I think it's fair to say, when Ove retired from the race.
Yeah, I think you can sometimes count on Ove to retire from the race, but it was really cool to have qualified just behind him and to have been able to see the battle for the lead for the first 10 laps or so. I'm not usually that competitive, so I felt like I had a really good race, and although it was a quiet kind of race, it was extremely stressful because I was, pushing to keep up with the leaders, knowing that they would inevitably slowly drift away from me. But I thought I had a good buffer to the guys behind, but then they slowly caught me up, and so I was really stressing out the last 7 or so laps. My face was dripping with sweat, so I was really pushing hard. So it made it a really fun race, but I think it was probably one of my best races because I barely made any mistakes, and I kept up the pace and wasn't that much slower than the leaders, and I beat my usual rivals who usually beat me. So a really good race in the end.
Yeah, and to that point, we've kind of seen that you've sort of been, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but you've been kind of the head of that sort of second pack really throughout the majority of the season. You're consistently picking up more than 40 points each race. Do you think that you can kind of step into that lead pack, or do you think that they're just a little bit out of reach?
I like to think of it as best of the rest. No, I don't put in the practice, and I don't have the natural skill that those guys do, so I won't be able to catch up to them, I'm afraid.
Well, we still like to see you fighting out there, and you're obviously always coming away with consistent top 10s. And we got 2 rounds to go, Catalonia and Spa. You got any thoughts on either of those tracks?
Yeah, like them both. Catalonia, it's fun to drive in this car, and the racing will be close. Like here at Silverstone, there's going to be close lap times, but it's going to be hard to pass, surprisingly. So it'll be some close racing, but not heaps of overtaking. And then Spa is just a favourite of mine. Great way to end out the season. Really hope I can make that race and be as competitive as I was here at Silverstone. I love these classic F1 tracks. I seem to do well, maybe because I've done the most laps in them from various other games and that kind of thing. Maybe, I don't know. They just seem to suit me a little bit better, and yeah, looking forward to them.
Well, we definitely hope to see you out there for Spa and hope that you can make it. And before we let you go, is there anybody that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Thanks again, John, for the setups every week, and to the whole Lotus 49, the 49ers community. Good stuff.
Well, thank you for coming and chatting with us, and congratulations on the top 5.
Yeah, thanks very much. I hope to hold out this sort of top 5 in the championship. Maybe I was kind of expecting at the beginning, top 10, or I expect to be around 7th or something like that. But yeah, if I can stick around the top 5, I'll be really happy again. I feel that's best of the rest.
Absolutely, and you do have a slight lead over last right now, which will have extended today.
Awesome, good to hear. Thanks, guys.
So there you have it then, Ben Shoko, or as it says on his card, Benjamin the Elephant, having a great run here today in another number 7 machine. But that is going to bring the curtains down then on the Grand Prix series here. Want to give a massive thank you to all of the companies involved here. You can see up on your screen, and a special thanks to June Lalonde. Her music is incredible. You can check that out on Bandcamp if you haven't already. Massive thanks has to go, of course, to the team today from Rob, Christian and Dougie. Make sure to check out social media here with us, with GSRC, as well as our website and merchandise store. And if you haven't had the chance to already over on the world of YouTube, make sure you like, share and subscribe so that you do not miss a moment of action here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Next race is right on screen. It'll be 1 week from today, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. It will be the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya in Montemelo, Spain. You'll definitely want to make sure you check that out. And all of the other broadcasts that are flicking across your screen, mark them down in your calendar if you haven't already. What's up next for us today? Well, it'll be Camel GT, and we're heading to Mosport, Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Join us at 1 p.m. Eastern for that, which is just about 2 hours and 20 minutes away. It is a race where Topi Courtiniemi's been able to close down the gap, and he really puts Brandon Hawkin in a difficult position. Hawkin, though, I would say, had the better race of the two, despite the fact that he was 10 seconds back, because he had to really fight for that victory. This championship is going all the way to Spa-Francorchamps, mark my words. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we will see you on the track.